Oh, there we go. All right, cool. There we go. I think we're good. Am I on there? Well, it looks like we're good. If y'all can hear me, give me a thumbs up. I'm using that StreamYard thing. This is the second time I've used it. So and don't forget to go to, if you would be so kind, youtube.com/Josh Scanlon. So I can get that to get 2,000 or 4,000 hours, a little bit more than halfway there right now. Hey, Arn, right on. Are you on both channels, Arn? All right, cool. Good, good, good. Haven't seen you around. Arn, what's your story, man, or a lady? I imagine it's Arn for R&E. Where are you from? There we go. Audio good. Cool. Good, good, good. Fantastic. All right. So for you all who are watching, if you as you live, if you get on here, my other channels, youtube.com/Josh Scanlon. I need to get that to get 4,000 hours. I'm a little bit more than halfway there of watch time. That way I can start getting some of that sweet, sweet George Soros money. Central California, right on, man. All right, so Arn's a dude. Okay, cool. Haven't seen you around these parts. What brings you here, man? What brings you here? Are you have you followed my? I haven't seen your name at all. So have you followed my channel before? So you're new, or at least you're new in terms of someone I haven't seen before. I haven't recognized. So appreciate you being here. All right, we'll do that. I haven't made an announcement of this live stream, so wait for a couple other people to get involved here. And I'm gonna go get my hot tea here in just a second. Just got done help my spouse. We're put together a Nordic track that we got for Christmas from Costco. So that was Bill Que Paso. All right, right on. Eric, you're Eric, you're not new. Jill, you still got your moderator thing? All right. We're frazzled Hallows. All right, right on, right on. Bill, where are you coming in from? So I know where Eric and Jill are from. Now we know for Arn where he's from. Where's Bill Carnes coming from? And frazzled Hallows. That looks like a one of those chick things that say, I wait for your call. So I don't have a sneaky suspicion, Jill, that frazzled Hallows is not a real is going to be one of those trolls that are trying to get men to click on their link. All right, Eric, I'll make you a moderator. Wait, which hold on a second. I got to do it someplace else. All right, okay, never mind. Good job there, Frazzled. Not for your. That doesn't look. I just see a picture of a chick going like this, like kissing, and it looked at like on. It looked like some of these trolls or bots that put like hot chicks in their avatar. They say, "I wait for your love." Yeah, right on. Right, hey, chill. Bringing the Indiana, nice. Right on. All right, cool. All right, there we go. All right, looks like we're good here. Hold on just a second. Merry Xmas V45. No live stream tomorrow, and I'll share with you why later, but no live stream tomorrow, amigos. All right, hold on just a second. All right. I guess that's, come on, man, kill me. Hold on, I'm trying to get this situated here. All right. There we go. All right. An older hot chick, right on, man. All right. So Arn grew up in Indiana and Illinois. Now he's dominating the streets of California. All right, all right. All right, so what I want to do tonight, I want to share with some stuff on things that do kind of right on vinyl. That makes me a little bit concerned, frankly. And I did a video earlier today on why. Hey, Max, on why I'm actually excited about a Sniffy Joe admin. Why I can't get this? Hold on just a second, man. Jeez Louise. All right, hold on. All right, I don't want. All right, I'm gonna have to. But just that's a. All right, hold on just a second. Let me see if I can't get this. What is it going? All right, let me just change this out. Hold on just a second. And when I say I'm excited about Sniffy Joe administration, doesn't mean I'm excited about the policies. I am excited about the fact that for once the people on the right are going to freaking go and not just be the punching bags that we've been for the last 20 years. We've been punching bags, man, for 20 years. We've been playing the rope-a-dope, and it's time not. Remember, the reason Muhammad Ali won in the rope-a-dope fight was because ultimately, was it Sonny Liston? Who was the other guy in the rope-a-dope? I can't remember. The reason that hey, what's up, Doug and Carl? The reason that Muhammad Ali won is because he took that beating. He took the beating, but he actually ultimately fought back when I think it was Sonny Liston was tired himself out. That's why Muhammad Ali won in the rope-a-dope. And so the Republicans have been playing the rope-a-dope for basically as long as I've been, I mean, hell, I turned 22 in 1992 when I got out of the military. And essentially my whole adult life, the Republicans have been on the ropes, just taking it, and the culture has advanced further left than you can possibly imagine. And so that was why I'm excited, because finally the Republicans are going to get off the rope and start punching back. And we just never done it. And now we're not afraid George. Okay, it was George Foreman? Really? Okay, I did not know that. That's interesting. I did not know it was Foreman. But that's at some point the rope-a-dope, you still got to throw punches, and the Republicans have never thrown punches. We're just too. I don't want to be called racist. I don't want to be called this. I don't want to be stupid Karl Rove. We don't want to offend the mushy middle. While the Democrats go far left, they're never offended by the mushy the left, but they're always offended by the Republicans acting like Republicans, man. That's 100%. You can't afford to ignore politics. That's the issue. You might not want to be paying attention to politics, but politics wants to pay attention to you. That's a fact. All right, so I'm just trying to get this situated over here real quick. I'm having a heck of a time. So hold on just a second. We're gonna get this situated. All right. I vacillate on the Georgia stuff there. Whoever said that vinyl about whether or not the Republicans are going to win both seats. I don't know. We'll see. I'm moderately confident in that for sure. But the facts are the mail-in ballots and freaking idiot Puffenbarger and Kemp. And the thing that just infuriates me about Kemp more than anything is he was right on the masks and the lockdowns and stuff. And I don't know what's going on here. Why I'm not able to. All right. So I don't know what's going on with comments, but I'm unable to. That's weird. I'm just all right. Whatever. Just got to go with it. Anyway, so Kemp was good. Trump screwed him. I get that, but Kemp was good. And now Kemp, I don't know what happened to him. He just went crazy and is like refusing to say we got to get to the bottom of this. And Puffenbarger, oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to share with you a couple things here. Oh no, I tell you, I was reading an article today. I forgot who was. The local elections are actually more important. That's the local elections are where everything. You got to win the localities first. You got to build up. The local elections are the most. I can't remember who has written that, but someone is saying the Republicans have done a poor job at focusing on the local elections. And we've all done. They've all focused on the national. Be it senators, congressmen, and president, but they have done a poor job of the localities. The localities are where the real action is. So, all right, let's go into this. I'm going to try to share my screen. and we're going to go to Chrome tab, and I want to go to, hold on just a second, right here. All right, so we're going to start with this one first. Let's make sure y'all can see that. And this is from my man Brian Westbury over at First Trust. How do I get out of that? Okay. All right, so hold on. I'm learning this StreamYard thing as we go, so bear with me just a second here because I'm. All right, there we go. All right, sweet. I guess y'all can't see that very well. All right. All right, so this is November existing home sales. First Trust data. I'm a huge fan of Brian Westbury over at First Trust, and I got a book of his on my shelf back there on reasons to be optimistic. Brian at Westbury is one of the more optimistic guys, and even during Obama, he's he definitely comes at it from libertarian right. But even during Obama, he was very optimistic. And Westbury, as I said this a million times on Sunday, and I'll say it again here. Westbury was the one who called when they got rid of mark-to-market accounting in 2009. I'll say it again. I was driving, getting gas. I got off of De Zavala in Texas and burned in San Antonio to get gas off De Zavala Road. And Brian Westbury came onto the Hugh Hewitt program. And this is in March of 2009. And Westbury says, we're at the bottom. I'll never forget that. And I remember thinking, what? Because I was knee deep. As most of us on the right were like, dude, socialism is here. Inflation is here. It's bad. We're going to be Venezuela. And Westbury says, nope, the market is bottomed out. And the reason was because Barney Frank had called a committee to have a meeting to discuss mark-to-market accounting, and that we needed to get rid of it. And sure as hell, Westbury was right, man. It was nuts. And March 9th, 2009 was the bottom of the market. I think Barney Frank called the committee meeting on March 5th, 2009, something like that. And anyway, long story short, Westbury said, look, Obama's got big government policies. Those aren't good, but the stock market right now will recuperate, and the economy is coming back. And he was right, man. Anyway, so here he runs First Trust Advisors as their chief economist. Existing home sales declined 2.5% in November to 6.69 million, nearly matching the consensus of 6.7 expected. Sales are up 25% versus a year ago, which is pretty amazing. Sales are up 25%. But look at that. Look at that. That tiny drop right there. All right. Now, we go to sales are up from a year ago. So you can see this right here, 2019. It's hard to say, but let's just say it's right there. And that's a serious increase. Now, you take away the top side, you take away the bottom side, it's a gradual increase. But, I mean, look at that. Either way, that's a huge increase. 25% sales are up. But look at that drop. All right, so that's just a little bit. Is that a little bit, or is that the beginning of this? I don't know, but let's check it out. Sales in November fell in the South, Midwest, and Northeast, but remained unchanged in the West. The decline was due to both single family and condos. The median price of an existing home fell to $310,000, but it's still up 14.6% a year ago. Average prices are up 11.3% versus last year. So let's think about this. Home sales are up 25% year over year. The average price is up 11.3% year over year. All right. Following 5 consecutive months of gains, existing home sales took a widely expected breather in November. Despite the small headline decline in today's report, sales in 2020 are on pace to post the highest annual level since 2006. Does anyone remember what happened in 2007? From February to the bottom of May, sales collapsed 32%. And see, I don't even care about even if we got rid of that collapse. I mean, we are still trending on a significant upturn over the course of 2020. So hold on a second. One major contributor to the recent recovery has been the Fed's liquidity policies, which has pushed the 30-year mortgage rates to record lows. I tell you, man, everyone's making a big deal out of this. So right now, the 30-year Treasury is at 1.662. So you can lock in 30 years at 1.662 is the interest rate you're getting. That's not even that after inflation and taxes is a loser without question. It also looks at the pandemic and have given potential buyers a new sense of urgency, with demand for existing houses so strong in November that 73% of the homes sold are on the market for less than a month. That said, sales face continued headwind from the low inventory of existing homes. Today's report showed that inventories were the lowest for any month on record going back to 1999 and down 22% a year ago. This is reflected in the month's supply of existing homes for sale, which is now at 2.3, the lowest reading on record. Inventory shortage is most acute at the lower end of the price spectrum, with available properties worth $500,000 or less posting double-digit percentage declines in the past year. Look for continued robust sales as we head into 2021, although sales will eventually settle down to a lack of supply. All right. So the question that comes to my mind, can we continue to have such a significant uptick of sales, of prices? And so what do you think people do when they have more and more equity? This is what they did in the 2000s. They spend more. They spend more. They borrow more. They spend. They borrow more and spend, which does what? That increases consumption, which does what? Increases GDP because of consumption, because they have this wealth effect. This is the first point. So here, wait, what happened? All right, how do I go back to, okay. All right, hold on just a second. All right, am I back on here? Okay. All right, well, let me go get my tea. I'll be right back. All right, back with my hot tea. All right. So my concern is that we have, if we have a high consumption due to the wealth effect, and I don't know that. I'm just saying that's typically what happens. High increase in stock prices, high increases in real estate makes people feel wealthier, which makes them have more disposable income, especially from borrowing power, and thus they buy things, which increases GDP, because consumer demand or consumer spending is the biggest source of GDP there is. So the point being, you get a little bit of a drawback on that. And is this the beginning? I don't know, but it concerns me. So let's read this, and we're going to hit this guy. All right, let's go to Chrome tab. And we're going to go to right here. Now, this is from Zero Hedge. And Zero Hedge, notorious for being on the bearish side of things. They're more notorious on the bearish side for sure. They kind of like that money GPS guy out of Canada. Look, I don't watch his YouTube. I don't have any antipathy towards him or animosity. The bearish stuff all the time just drives me up the wall. But I thought this was pretty good. All right. So here's a Dateline, December 23rd. Core durable goods miss. Personal income and spending miss. Michigan sentiment. This is a big one. It's weird because the University of Michigan consumer sentiment is always a big indicator of a leading economic indicator. Total jobless claims remain above 20. And this is the big one, the jobless claims. And new home sales miss and drop, all sending hard and soft macro data plunging. But stocks are up because it's just a flesh wound. I find that kind of funny. So we're seeing declines. Anyway, and I thought this was pretty funny. This Monte Carlo is just a flesh wound. All right. So all right. All the hope evaporates. Investors, using the loosest ways, bought small cap stocks with both hands and feet while dumping big tech at the cash open. Overnight saw stocks tank as Trump spoke on the improvements to COVID relief bill. Then, with around 10 minutes to go, the bottom fell out as headlines on Trump's veto of the defense bill. Okay, I don't really care about that. Hold on a second. I want to see what bank energy stocks. Treasuries are dumped with long end yield around 5 basis points and notably steepening. Afternoon gains sent the yields back to the unchanged of the week. Notably, the 10-year, 30-year was held within a recent range, which is exactly about 0.9 and 1.6, but that whatever. The dollar drifted lower, but remains high. Cable jumped, Bitcoin. All right, hold on a second. I thought we had more on this. Maybe not, but I thought I had more on the right here. Meanwhile, there's no inflation. All right, and you can see here as real yields plummeled back towards record lows, spot goals. I'm catching up to. That wasn't. I was more want to see more on the this right here. The jobless claims, the home sales, consumer sentiment, income. It just that's bothersome to me. I'm not going to lie to you, man. That's I'm sitting there thinking, okay, on top of the price decline on homes. Is that an indication? I don't know. So let's talk about what they've done. The Feds have done for inflation. All right, they've inflated by their low interest rates, and they're not raising their interest. I was listening to Uneducated Economist yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was surprised how he's so keen that the Fed's going to raise interest rates. I'm like, why would you raise interest? I mean, literally, why would you raise interest rates? If you're selling government debt like it's going out of style, there's absolutely no reason to raise interest rates because the demand is through the roof of the low interest rates anyway. Why it literally makes no sense to me at all. You don't raise interest rates. The reason you raise interest rates is to deal with inflation. That's not there. You don't raise interest rates just because you're like, hey, let's raise interest rates. Let's pay more to incentivize people to borrow from us. That literally makes no sense. But there is no inflation. And if we have so what has the Fed's done for inflation? Well, by hook or by crook, they inflated three things. They inflated bonds, they inflated stocks, and they inflated real estate. That's what they've done by keeping everything else low. But you know what else they've done? They've also kept it cheaper for the Feds to borrow money. But that money isn't being put into the economy. The velocity of money just isn't there. And if you have a real estate decline, people aren't getting jobs. There is no inflation. There's going to be consumer demand going. I sit there. I'm in awe how many people think inflation is coming without question. We've already had inflation. It's called those big three: real estate, bonds, and stocks. How much more can they inflate those things? I don't know. Hey, what's going on, Marty? You in Oregon? I don't think he's here. No, it's my man Simon, the Uneducated Economist. I've actually emailed him a couple of times. We've been playing around trying to get him to interview on my channel or but I like him. I don't get this. I just don't get the thing with right. That's exactly it. Final. That's it right here. Okay. Right there. Oh yeah, I forgot I could do this. Can you all see that? That's exactly it. All the money is going to the rich people who buy stocks, bonds, and real estate. It is not going into the economy. And if it doesn't go into the economy and there's no inflation, why in the world would the Fed raise interest rates? The only time they need to raise interest rates, Paul Volcker, is to stop inflation. Inflation isn't here. It's not here. Other countries need to raise interest rates in order to incentivize people to buy their debt. That we don't need to do that. Anyway, I could not agree with that more. All the money is going to the rich people. So you have this increasing divide, an increasing oligarchy. And the rich people are like, hey, it's frustrating to me when people who, I hate to say should know better, because I'm not even sure, some of these people, I'm not necessarily sure they should know better, but I'm like, man, they're not going to freaking all of a sudden magically just say, we're going to raise interest rates for the sake of raising interest rates. It doesn't make sense. I wish I could find that Phil Graham article from 2009 or 10. He had written an article in the Wall Street Journal. So good stuff, Final. All right, so Phil Graham had written an article back in the Wall Street Journal in 2010, maybe, talking about, maybe it was at 9, I think one of those years, talk about the Fed. This is when the interest rates, like, the freaking 10 years at 3. He said if the Fed raises rates to even half the normal rate, the number 2 line item on the budget, this is back before where we are now, would be the interest to service the debt. That was before the Obama drunken sailor spending. That was before the Trump drunken sailor spending. Can people stop and think about this for a second? If the Fed raises rates, that means they are going to have to service the debt with money they don't have. And as Phil Graham said 10 to 15 years ago, that would be the second largest, maybe now the largest freaking line item in the federal budget. It was, I think it was, military and Social Security, or military, Social Security, and Medicaid, Medicare, or like 1, 2, and 3. I can't remember which is first. But one of those were retained number 1. I think it was Social Security. Military would have dropped to number 3 or something like that. And I'm pulling from my head. I have to find that article. But come on, people. Just because they're not. Look, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just sitting there. These things concern me because I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if all of a sudden out of nowhere we have a decline in the price of housing, we have a decline in the sales, the transactions, which helps to increase velocity of money, by the way. Think about it. Anytime you refi, anytime you sell, you're buying new stuff, new furniture, you're buying, anytime you move, anytime you sell, you liquidate a house, that helps to increase the velocity of money. That's all there is to it. You're putting more money into the economy that previously was held in your home. And so now you sell your house, and you're going to upgrade. We'll just use that for example. Well, you're going to upgrade. You're going to get new furniture. You know what I'm saying? You're going to upgrade. You're going to buy out. You're going to hire a new roofer. You're going to all this stuff. What does that do? It creates its own economy right there. That filters itself for velocity of money. You're hiring a roofer. You're hiring a painter. You're going to freaking wherever, the furniture store. All that stuff is being filtered back in the economy, which is inherently creates its own demand, which increases the GDP. Man, if we get a decline, what does that do? It's not inflationary. And going back to my concern before about bonds versus stocks versus cash, well, if we don't have deflation, what is beneficial in a non-deflationary environment? So think about that for just a second. So I was talking to a guy today, my man Richard, and obviously I won't say who this guy is. And it's very interesting. So Richard's better half, she wants to sell some stocks, and they want to upgrade they got money. They want to upgrade their second home. And he said, what do you think? And I said, man, I think you should. I think you should sell it. He's also thinking about taking debt. So, and I said, I think you should sell. Yeah, Hans, I don't know how it works with getting when I go live. I just basically, I like going live on Saturdays. I'm probably going to start doing more Saturdays just because I actually like it. And I got no life. You know what I'm saying? I'm a loser. We're all homebodies in the Scanlon, Shay Scanlon. We're all homebodies. My wife, me, the girls, the boys, we just chill like a bill. That's all there is to it. It's a good life, man. It's tough to beat. What was I just saying? Oh, so my man Richard. So I said, man, I think you should sell your stock. He's got more money than I do. Let's put it that way, which doesn't take much. But I said, I think you should sell, and then use that money to buy that real estate that you're looking at for his second home. He's already got a second home, and I said he's going to upgrade it if that makes sense. Anyway, he goes, oh, you're going to get some brownie points with my wife. I said, exactly, because women have who said this? I forgot. I was reading something where the guy said women have a Dave Ramsey said that they got what do you say? They got a safety gland that men don't have, or they don't have the risk-taking gland that men have, or something like that. And that's what Dave Ramsey said. That's true. I think a lot of women are absolutely more conservative, thus maternal nature. Yeah, I tell my wife, and she agrees with that 100%. Women have more of a conservative tendency than men do, and as such, my man Richard is willing to take a mortgage because he thinks he can beat the mortgage interest rate with a market. And his wife's like, look, we've done well in the stocks. So let's just take some gains and buy the house. And I agreed with her. Because at the end of the day, inflation kills. If you're in debt, you want inflation. If you're in debt, inflation is your thing, without question. If you're in debt, you hate deflation. Deflation destroys wealth for people, those who owe. Those who owe get destroyed. Those who own make money in deflation. Those who owe make money in inflation. Always remember that. And if we go into a more and more inflationary and deflationary environment, if you owe, you're hating life. If you own, you're loving life. And you own bonds, you own stocks, you own cash, you own real estate. You are loving life in deflation. If you owe, you are hating life in deflation. You got to remember that. So, yeah, no, Jill, me either. I'm the comforts of my home, man. I'm all fine with it. Everybody's a homebody in the winter, right on, man. All right. So anyway, the point I said, you sell your stock or sells. I mean, look, he's not selling everything. Let's go. Here's my man Harry right here. By the way, I want to point out old Harry here. Everybody's Harry did, and he said this before, so I'm not sharing any inside knowledge, but he bought an income annuity that's paying him well more than he needs to live on. And he's very comfortable with that. And I want to read you this article too, if I can find it. Hold on a second. Nope. Wait, all right, hold on a second. I gotta find this article. All right, hold on a second. I gotta find this. Let me someone had sent this to me. Just while I'm looking this up, I'm going to share with you. All right. I'm going to share with you while I'm looking up this other article. We are going to share with you my man right here, Chris Barfield's HSA, the medical IRA account or article they had written. So hold on just a second. I want to share with you right here. And while we're looking up that, I'm going to find. All right, we are going to go right here. See if that works. All right, cool. There we go. All right. All right, cool. So let's get out of that. We're going to come here. And that's barfieldfinancial.com. You guys should definitely subscribe to that because that's a great site. So let's get rid of Harry's thing here. Can I do it right there? No. How do I do that? Oops, right there. All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go to share screen. And my man Alan had sent me this right here. There we go. Retirees with a guaranteed income are happier and live longer. Now, this falls under the annuities thing here. And I'm just going to read you a little bit here. We got a happy guy playing softball. Retirees who are surrounded by families and friends who have substantial check coming in every month for the rest of their lives are much happier, according to, I could care less about time, but the Wall Street Journal. And they also live longer. That makes sense because the number one worry of retirees is running out of money. Individuals who have a set income for life remove a great deal of stress from their lives. I could not agree with that more. Retirees used to get enough money from Social Security and a traditional pension to cover their living expenses. Nope, that's simply freaking fake news. That never happened. These people who say this are either, who wrote this freaking article? Ken Nuss. Who the hell is Ken Nuss? And why do they perpetuate this? He's a founder of Annuity Advantage. So he's a annuity proponent. I get that. That freaking Ken, pill your freaking head out of your butt. That is not true. That's not true that retirees used to get enough from Social Security and pension. That's fake news. You're falling for it. And man, I tell you what, if you want respect from me, I know you don't. I don't care. Pull your head out of your rear end and look for the reality before you start spouting off that that's true. It is not true that retirees used to get all their income covered from pension and Social Security. That is fake news. And it ticks me off because it's the typical doomsday crap. And I'm not surprised it comes from a guy who's advocating annuities. But there is something to be said about it. All right, how you can get additional guaranteed income annuities. Income annuities provide an often overlooked solution. A lump sum or a series of premium deposits is converted by an insurance company into an income stream that you cannot outlive. Research showed that annuities provide both psychic and financial benefits. Psychic? Retired annuity owners feel more confident they'll be able to afford preferred retirement lifestyles than retirees who do not own an annuity, according to a LIMRA study. We're going to dive into that study later. I'd be curious to see what we're going to dive in that. I probably won't do it tonight because I haven't read it yet. But LIMRA is if it says Retirement Income Institute or something like that, which is what these guys are, it's all insurance, it's basically insurance lobbying groups. But some 73% of retirees who own an annuity believe they'll be able to live the retirement lifestyle they want, compared with just 64 retirees that don't. Right? Well, that's not that big of a difference there. Nearly 70% of retirees who own an annuity are more confident in their savings and investments, compared with 57% of retirees who don't own one. Again, that's not a huge discrepancy, but anyway, but I actually agree with that. The sentiment I 100% agree with. I've never had anyone call me and say they get too much money from annuities. Never, ever, ever. I have had people call me who say, I feel like I got, rooked on my freaking variable annuity that I bought. Never had anyone call me who said, Josh, I can't sleep at night. I've got too much income from my annuity. And that's never happened. And I'm not saying it won't, but it never has. And the reason for that is simple, because the more money you pocket, if you're not spending it, like my man Harry, you just put in the freaking bank. You put in the bank or invest it. The point is, with a fixed income, all right, a fixed income with a cost of living going down on basic goods and services. And again, what will be going down? I don't know. But inflation that everyone's talking about for the 1970s style, that's just not happening. It's just not, man. Yeah, and the interest rates jumped up because the Fed wants to do what exactly? I mean, I don't understand his reasoning. There's just no logic there. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So if you're waiting on interest rates to jump up, it's not going to happen, man. Because the only time interest rates jump up is because of a threat of inflation. It's just not there. So as such, an annuity. Now, look, I'm not too keen on SPIAs at this stage. SPIA is a single premium income annuity. The reason I'm not necessarily too keen on that, and I'm not against it, but the reason I'm a big fan of SPIAs, generally speaking, as I've said before. I'm not a fan of indexed annuities, not in the least. I did a video on that the other day. I just want to drop an anvil on my head because it's just the way these guys sell this. I'm just sitting there thinking, can you at least have a decent sales pitch, people? I mean, if you got a product that you're proud of, then why are you hiding truth? Anyway, I'm not a fan of index annuities. I'm not a fan of variable annuities by and large, but I like SPIAs, income annuities, absolutely. The problem is it takes so long to get to break even there. And so it's kind of like if it takes 20 years to break even on an income annuity, you might as well just park your money in Ginnie Mae and be done with it. But be it as it may, those who do buy income annuities, they're not worried about running out of money. And if they make too much on their annuity, like my man Harry, it just goes in the bank. Nothing wrong with that at all. So I'm not agnostic about them. I would recommend that the bulk of people say, I'm not sure I'm going to lock up my money. But I get if people do. You don't want to be in the variable annuity at this stage. The point about that is if we have a declining cost of living, we're going to have the annuities, anything fixed, even cash is king, man. I just cannot stress this enough. And for those of you Ray Dalio types who say cash is trash, I'll be happy to be your trash can. Send me your cash. All right, so I wanted to talk. Okay, we talked about that. Let's just take a look at what this article was on. And no live stream tomorrow, my friends. And I'll share with you why that is later. Not tonight, but I'll share with you why. Big plans, big plans. I have yet to read this, so let's just read what this article from the LIMRA is. I'm not sure what Wink and Tell is. All right. Retire annuity owners feel more confident. Yeah, if they're okay. Retirees who own an annuity versus retirees who don't own an annuity. Results are based on 2025 retirees aged 55 to 79 who have been retired for at least a year, had not worked within the past year, and had household incomes of $35,000 or more. All right. So that's a statistically relevant there. All right. But that I'd like to see what the questions were. Here, working with an advisor and having a formal retirement plan increased likelihood of annuity ownership. So who Secure Retirement Institute? Who wants to working with an advisor and having a formal retirement plan increase likelihood of annuity ownership? Shocking. So why do you think that's the case? Anyone want to take a gamble or a gander? Why that's the case? So you worked with an advisor. Let's see if we got some comments over here on my other thing. Yeah, I can't see that there, man. Cheese Louise and blue cheese. All right, so I can't see comments while I'm doing something, so I have to come back. I find that kind of funny. So basically what they're saying here is they're saying, hey, look, if you have an annuity, you're going to feel more secure. Not much, but you will be. Now, we don't know who they're just saying 2025 retirees, but we don't know the demographic. We just don't know anything about who they're questioning. Secondly, if you work with an advisor and have a formal retirement plan, you're likely to increase an annuity ownership, which means you're likely to increase your ability to live comfortably in retirement. What could be the reasoning for that? Shocking. Well, because let's see if anyone commented there. Yeah, exactly. Meeting an annuity salesman increases the likelihood of owning an annuity. Man, Vinyl's kicking it today. Yep. Look at Mark. Look at that dog. We're at 55 now. We're done at 60. Right on, man. Yep, good stuff. Annuities may be good to cover your fixed expenses, but not. Yeah, well, my friends are worried their state pension is not going to get paid. I get this a lot, Marty. I deal with a lot of. I'd say about a quarter to a third of my clients are Californians. Many of them which have California state pensions, and they're all worried about it, all of them. And thankfully, a lot of them are fleeing California, and they're not taking their blue politics because they're red, and they're taking the red politics to Texas, to Idaho, and stuff like that. So be advised, just because you see someone with California tags, they're probably, don't assume they're bringing their left-wing politics for sure. The pages get blurry, but I think at first they get blurry, Steve, but I think they get less blurry the longer I focus on them, actually. Yep, exactly. Met it because advisor gets fees, 100%. All right, let's see some comments here. All right, so all right. Someone has sent lumber prices. Yep. Producers don't want raw lumber, artificially keeping prices up. How do the prices go down if there's a shortage of lumber? Well, it's all demand, and that's my issue. I mean, at the end of the day, the demand is what drives prices, man, without question. So if the demand goes down, prices go down. I mean, that's it. And the reason demand goes down is because people will vacate the market. And that would be my concern. If we have a significant decline, if that's the first stage of this, and then it starts going down more, and I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. Is that the beginning of the decline, if we're at the beginning of 2007 and we just see a little bit of a price drop, and the National Association of Home Builders and NAR, National Association of Realtors, were saying, "Oh no, it's just and sure as hell, freaking markets collapsed." Or is this? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, but it does concern me for sure because you still have significant unemployment. If that remember, demand drives everything, man. Demand is what drives freaking prices. All right. Now, what they'll say is supply creates its own demand. That's two different arguments. So, an iPhone, no one demanded an iPhone in 1996. All right. They do demand it now after we've had it and been accustomed to it. So, the demand or the supply drove its demand. That is true. However, a home is in demand or it's not. A car is in demand or it's not. You see what I'm saying? Demand. And then in economics, we also have this thing called substitution effect. If the price of iPhones starts going through the roof, you'll say, I'm not going to get an iPhone. I'm going to get an Android, or I'm going to get a whatever that is, T-Mobile, or the Google has whatever, the Google 5, I don't know what the hell it is. But that's called substitution effect. If the price of beef goes through the roof, you'll substitute it with chicken, if that makes sense. If the price of a 4-bed, 3-bed house goes through the roof, you'll substitute it with either not buying a new home or you'll downsize or something, if that makes sense. But the problem that a lot of people has is they're going to still have mortgages. They still have contingency. They got to sell their house to get out from underneath that to go into this other house. If the price drops, and we saw this just 15 years ago, man. If the price, I wrote about it in my book, right here. Strategic money planning. I wrote about it. In fact, one of the first chapters is camera of debt is the enemy. Renting versus owning. Debt is the enemy. I talked about that. I talked a real world story about what happened to someone we knew in our family that couldn't move because they were upside down in their home, and they could not move to take a better job, which sucked. But that's the way it was. And I'm just telling you right now, if that little beginning of a decline happens and it continues on, I don't know. Oh, there we go. There's my man. National Association of Home Builders. Right on news. Let's take a look at this. National labor framing lumber prices. I'll have to look at that. That's good. I probably should open that up now because, oops. Can I open up the link? Oh, man, it's not letting me open the link. Hey. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, it's not letting me open the link, Bob. Can you put in the comments? That's stupid. All right, new home prices are reflecting wood prices. Dimensional. Well, I'm not sure what you're saying dimensional. All right. Yeah, exactly. Lumber doesn't, I can agree more with vinyl. Lumber doesn't impact existing homes 100%. Yep. Paying for the location. Well, that doesn't make sense. Do the high prices, they're not building as much, which drives prices up for current homes. That makes no sense to me, Bob. The high prices would increase the supply. I don't agree with that at all. Because it's more theoretically, it's more profitable for a guy to say, "Look, I can get freaking 500,000 where last year I was getting 350. I'm going to put that house up." Now he's going to have to pay for the higher lumber. I get that, but he's going to turn around and push it on the buyer of his home. I don't agree with that at all. That was a median house is 263. I haven't followed the Nashville thing. I just saw the mayor is an idiot. He was laughing about it. Like I just saw a clip, and Cooper is their mayor. They come from a long line of Democrats. It's just I hate the nepotism in politics. I'm not going to lie. That I don't want Ivanka. I don't want Jared Kushner. I don't want Donald Trump Jr. I don't want any sons or daughters. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't want George P. Never vote for George P. Is there any other sons or daughters running out there that I'm not aware of on the Republican Party? I'm not sure, but I don't want any sons or daughters. I don't. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. All the house of mine. Okay, gotcha. All right, was All right. Interest rates may go up anyway. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know much about Bitcoin. I know people are big on crypto. I just haven't taken the time to jump into that. I think what's going to happen ultimately is we're going to a cashless society, and as such, the people who know crypto and how to do all that will be ahead without question. I don't think it's going to happen quite as quick as some people think, but we're going to a cashless society, man. There's no two ways around it. Hey, Southeast Wisconsin in the house. What would slow the international appetite for our debt? Well, that's the issue. Everyone keeps saying you're not going to the yuan, you're not going to freaking euro, you're not going to the yen. I don't know what it would be. I just don't know. If you went to a cashless society and it's just ones and zeros, I don't know. I don't know what would slow. That's the issue. I mean, the facts are we are the only game in town, especially when you look at the other countries. You're not getting any yield at all. And that's the thing, man. I mean, think about it. You can buy a Japanese, 30-year bond and get negative interest rates, or you could buy a U.S. 30-year bond and get 1.65. What would you rather have? You'd rather have the U.S. And as long as the demand is there, because we're still the best game in town, you're not going to see a jump in yield because the yield is offset by the price. They go like this. One goes up, the other goes down. It's just that simple. And as long as the demand is there for U.S. debt, the yields cannot just go up. It's now, look, the Fed doesn't control the longer term, but they're all kind of baked into the cake, man. I mean, my goodness. Having no mortgage is the way to go. I see. That's what I look at. Some people say I got an annuity, I'm happy. I'm like, man, I'll be happy not having a debt. If I have this big fat monstrosity of a debt over my head, I can sleep a hell of a lot better at night, and I sleep pretty good. Let's see here. Yes, another thing Vinyl says, demographics are against it. I'm thinking he's saying inflation. Large numbers of old people already have all they need, aren't moving or buying anything new. I 100% agree. The demographic shift is happening across the world, by the way. It's not just in the developed countries, across the world. Don't forget, in China, they're saying by the end of this century, they're only going to have 750 million people. Japan's already dead to rights. Europe will be nothing in 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Even the Muslim countries, they're not growing by leaps and bounds. I think it's like Indonesia, India, and Nigeria. Those three, I think, are growing. But on that, but there's nothing that's rocketing to the top. None. So what happens as the older population gets, that's why do you think the age bracket of the target audience in advertising, 25 to 54, I think it's 25 to 54. Maybe some of you marketing geniuses can check that, but I think it's 25 to 54 if memory serves. The reason for that is because once you get in your 50s, you're not going to change, man. I drink my decaf peppermint tea. I'm not changing. I like my decaf peppermint tea. Now, will I buy Walmart brand or will I buy Celestials, whatever is available? I don't really care. I'm not changing. This is what I do every night. Decaf peppermint tea. My wife drinks decaf regular tea every night. We're just not changing our habits. You just don't. And if you don't change your habits, you don't just start saying, I think I really want to start consuming X, Y, and Z. It just doesn't happen. You're already settled. You're not buying that many new cars. You're not buying that many new houses. You're not spending that much. And if you don't spend, you don't have a GDP growth of any significance because the biggest source of GDP is consumer spending. This is just that simple, man. And if there's no GDP growth, there's not going to be much inflation to contend with. And if there's not much inflation to contend with, guess what? There's not going to be a sudden surge in interest rates. It just doesn't have to be. It's literally that simple. But how about all the debt? I mean, how do people keep making this argument? I fell for that. I fell for it. When Obama and Ben Bernanke with Hurricane or Helicopter Ben were going to drop money from the sky, I said, Milton Friedman, too much money chasing too few goods is inflation. I said, yes, he's right. Turns out he was right as long as there's too much money chasing too few goods. There wasn't the chase, though. The too much money went into the bank vaults, or like Vinyl said earlier, to the rich people. No one else was doing anything. The velocity of money stopped. As such, vacation inflation did not come. All of us on the libertarian right were wrong. Yes, too much money chasing too few goods. The key isn't too much money. The key is a chase. It wasn't there. If the chase isn't there, inflation is not the net result. Too much money chasing too few goods. Yes, yes, yes. But we were focused on the too much money, not on the chase. And as such, there is no inflation. There's going to be less and less and less. Again, I absolutely could be wrong. But if the chasing, that's the velocity of money, if it doesn't come to fruition, and what would make it come to fruition? I mean, literally, what would make it come to fruition? It hasn't happened in Japan. Well, Japan's getting older. Well, we're getting older. Japan doesn't have immigration. Well, okay, is our immigrants really spending like drunken sailors? No, they're not. And we're offsetting that with older and older population. On top of that, we got so much debt as far as the eye can see of the consumer that they just have limited ability to spend. Yeah, it's so frustrating. And look, I don't know where it's going to go, but I hear these people saying inflation is inevitable. Like, how do you explain the last 15 years? How do you explain Japan? That hasn't happened. And it hasn't happened any in the world. There's nowhere in the world, the developed world, that has any kind of issue with inflation. None. And then on top of that, we got the stupid pandemic crisis. It wasn't the pandemic. It was the chaos revolving around the pandemic. You got all these people out of work. And we're freaking scavenging over a freaking stimulus for $1,200, where the hell it is. And all of a sudden, these people are supposed to have huge amounts of demand to spend. It's not there. It's not coming. Pay off debt. The millennials have to do the buying. I completely agree with that. But the millennials are so heavy in student loans. Oh, by the way, and Bernie and all these clowns can kiss my big fat behind if they start paying off kids' debts. I tell you, if you're going to do that, you damn well better get rid of all the diversity officers that you got at these universities. Get rid of them. You damn well better get rid of the endowments. Say, we're taking your endowments. And you better freaking hold these colleges accountable by promoting a false sense of security of their stupid degrees. And all of a sudden, they're going to get out of college and start making bank. It is such a freaking reverse Robin Hood. The college education system is reverse Robin Hood. Stealing from the ignorant poor. A lot of them happen to be minorities from single-parent families, and giving to the wealthy administrators. And screw all that, man. The freaking Gordon G from Ohio State University and all these clowns. They can all kiss my big fat behind. I'm sick of that crap. Exactly, Bob, right here. That is right there, man. Lots of good comments here tonight, friends. Hard to spend money if you have no job, live in the parents' basements. 100%, man. After watching many of your videos on IRA conversion, I am going to convert some or many of my TSP to Roth IRA and then ultimately to Roth. Did not realize the RMD would kill me with taxes. Oh. All right, so here's my man. Okay, inflation, housing, education, healthcare. What's deflating? Now that's actually a good point. So it's interesting too. If you look at two of those three, education and healthcare are what? Heavy government regulations. Housing is too, especially with rent control, with what they're doing in California, mandating photovoltaic and all that stuff. Healthcare is inflating heavily with the government. Hillary Clinton basically banned private lending from student loans through the feds and whatnot, and education, of course, is just so. What's happening though is we're seeing a bubble in education. It's coming. Housing is a inflating asset, also with stocks and bonds. So I put housing as its own separate, unique category. Housing is its own separate, unique entity because it's a asset that is being inflated deliberately, for sure. And I would even argue, is housing being inflated all over? Vinyl had said earlier, it depends on where you live, man. How education is look, man, they're inflating themselves to death, and I one for one could not be happier. Healthcare, it's who knows, but that's a good point. That's a good point. Deflation encourages savings and defer. Yeah, 100% Arn. This is the thing with deflation. You're going to say, look, I can buy tomorrow what I could buy cheaper than what I could buy today. As such, I'm going to wait till tomorrow's prices because tomorrow will be cheaper, if that makes sense. That's the exact opposite of inflation. It's hard to kind of wrap this, not intuitive, because we're so trained on inflation. It's hard. I want to show you guys something here, man. I think I always go back to this guy. I think we get so caught up. All right, so we're going to go to, this is Daniel Kuhlbertson again. You get all he's got, I'm such a big fan of what Dan's doing. 55e.co, big fan, and you should be too. Get all his freaking spreadsheets. It's freaking great. Anyway, so I'm going to go back and we're going to go to S&P 500, and we're going to go to right here. All right, so I want to share with you guys something, and we are going to go back to the dawn of S&P 500. Now, I did use this in my book, Retire with a Wellington Phone. So if y'all haven't bought it, buy it. I got note that some of the comments, the reviews are not going up on Amazon. I don't know what that's about. But if you put a review on there and it's not going up, I just keep trying, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. It sucks, man. It pisses me off, but I'm not sure what's going on. All right, so I want to share with you a couple things. All right, so here is inflation. 1871. Lots of red. Lots of red. Don't you see lots of red there? That's inflation. If it's in red, that means it's deflation. So from basically 1870 to 1900, the predominant amount of time, we did not have inflation. We had deflation. The only time we had inflation from 1880 and 1900. 3 years, that's it. We had 3 years of inflation in those 30 years. That's it. All right. Now, what did the markets do? Because everyone says, well, inflation, deflation, there's some correlation between stock returns. There literally is none. So that was deflation. Returns are high. You can see that. Lots of pretty positive returns. Just typical. We had good returns, a couple bad years, just a typical portfolio of S&P 500. Interesting. So now if we go back to 1901 to 1930, we're going to see much of the same. A small inflation. When I think the Federal Reserve was initiated, 1914, 1912 or something like that. All right, but we got one moderate inflation, a little bit of deflation right there, 1907, 1910, and then World War I, which was Woodrow Wilson's pet friggin' scumbag. That just such a bad. But anyway, so we had high inflation because World War I. Then we revisited some of that at the end with deflation. Then the 1920s essentially was deflationary. All right, so basically, other than we had, I would say, very low inflation for the first decade of the 20th century. It probably a little bit of inflation, not much. High inflation for the second decade of the 20th century because of the World War I, and then we had deflation in the third decade of the 20th century. What did stocks do? When we come over here, negative, pretty negative. Oops. Again, pretty typical stock market, right? I mean, you got a couple bad years. But sandwich, lots of good years with a couple bad years sandwiched in between. That's it. So the point is, I always try to say is stocks are like electrons. They're not attached to the atom. There's no correlation between inflation or deflation in stock returns. There is just not any. So if we go to but everyone thinks there is because they all go back to the Great Depression. They say, oh my goodness, well, Josh, what happened in the 1930s? And that's where they start saying there is a correlation between stock returns and deflation. Well, not necessarily. So here we got 1929 and 1930. Yeah, negative returns, not much. I mean, it's a little bit. Here's deflation. Huge return. Two bad returns, but you can see deflation 3 of those 4 years and pretty good returns by and large. It was 1929 with all the leverage when everything fell to poop. But of course, FDR's Great Society or New Deal just extrapolated or just expanded upon the hurt that he brought. So FDR brought the pain in 1932 for sure to keep the Great Depression, instead of making a typical depression, make it great. But be it as it may, again, there's no correlation at all between stock market and inflation or deflation, none whatsoever. So we go to 1931. We'll say, okay, so now we have deflation and we have negative returns. Deflation, negative returns. Deflation, high returns. Inflation, low returns. Deflation, high returns. There is no correlation, man, none whatsoever. So for those of you who say inflation means stocks this or deflation means stock that, and there's none. So basically, up until 1940, our history of the U.S. economy was heavily deflationary, for sure. From 1940 on, it's not like that. Well, the reason was we had World War II, we had Vietnam, and then huge government spending starting in 1965 or so. All right, but the history of America is not inflationary. It's just not. I'm sorry, it's not. But yet we've all thought it is because in all of our lives has been inflationary. But the history doesn't say that. The history says otherwise, that inflation is oops, I gotta stop sharing. Oops, how do I go back to that? There we go. So just because we're used to inflation doesn't make it typical, doesn't make it historic. It just means that's what we've had in the last 70 years. Well, we've had wars, huge government spending, and a baby boom like the world has never seen. All right, no war is coming. I mean, even Steely Joe, he's not going to start. I mean, he might start stupid wars, but he's not going to start anything en masse. Those days are gone. With no America has a tolerance for that anymore. So wars aren't coming. Government spending is here, but government spending has been here for decades and decades and decades. No inflation. Japan's got huge government spending. No inflation. So, I mean, think about it what you want. Inflation is not necessarily inevitable. In fact, I'm arguing it's not inevitable at all. In fact, I'd say that's not likely. It's deflation that's more likely. I just really do believe that. Part two of that, if you think, I was getting ready to say something about the 1930s. So we talked about Great Depression. Oh, and we've always had debt, by the way. I don't have my newspapers.com subscription up here, but I did a video on that about 6 months ago, going back to the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, where all the newspaper articles and editorial boards were saying the debt is going to lead to interest rates. The debt. We'll never pay off the government debt. It's never going to be paid off. It will never, ever, ever, ever be paid off. They've been saying this for years and years and years and years, going back to 1920s, which I think is when we had our first 1928 or something like that. I can't remember. But there was an article, a cartoon in the New York Times saying the government debt is going to sink the battleship or whatever it was. And it's like, it never did. And it could, but it hasn't. And basically going on 100 years now. We're never going to pay the debt off. Now, we're living right now in modern monetary theory. I'm just telling you right now, we are literally living in it. And so the argument goes that, well, you know, if we have the ability to inflate the currency by printing money, let's do it, because right now we have no inflation. Well, that's kind of what's going on now, which is why I'm not all that worried about all these people say MMT is going to freaking bankrupt us all. It might monetize the debt, but it's not going to inflate it necessarily. All right. Yeah, but more inflation, not necessarily stocks. I mean, maybe I would say stocks are the one thing that would be somewhat of a hedge against inflation for sure, simply because the price of stocks is contingent on profits. But inflation still can do devastation to profits as well. But at the end of the day, we know for a fact inflation will destroy fixed income. That's a fact. If I was pretty confident we're going inflationary times, I'd tell people to borrow. That's what I'd say. But I don't know that to be true. Raul Hardy in Wisconsin, live outdoors, ice fishing, 5-gallon bucket and approved. Right on, man. Federal government should allow HSA pre-tax contributions up to your plan's out-of-pocket max. Yeah, man. Lots of things the federal government should do for sure. Yeah, pensions work too. Right on, Jill. Yep. Kim, I want to save money for my 1-year-old granddaughter to give her when she turns 18. Do you recommend starting a Roth with M1 Finance? Well, you can't start a Roth for her, Kim, unless your granddaughter is actually earning income. So the answer to your question is yes. I use M1 myself, but you can't have an account, a Roth IRA for granddaughter unless she has earned income. And my presumption is she probably does not. Eric says he went out with wife today to a few stores. It was surprisingly very quiet. I was expecting very busy, but wasn't. Pelosi will take everyone's retirement accounts and guarantee you fixed income. Yeah, I don't see that, man. Hey, right on, Mark. It's on my new channel. Appreciate that. Lieutenant Matthew Leakis is going 10% Bitcoin, 40% growth, large cap, and 50% total stock. I will not pay off the loan at low interest rates. So anyone want to take a gander what old Matt is doing wrong here? There are some old ladies in my neighborhood who are barely holding on with Social Security and pensions, barely holding on. Harry says he's unfortunate at both. They're barely holding up a rising cost of living and property taxes. That's mandated by the freaking locality, man. That's a lot of businesses are going out of business. When things ramp back up, prices may rise since there'll be less competition. Okay, when things ramp back up, who's going to replace the old businesses? Yeah, 100%. House paid off, cars paid off. That's my issue. If everything's paid off, then who gives a crap, man? And you just learn how to grow some of your own food. You know what I'm saying? That's why I talked about getting solar the other day, because I do think electricity, with the regulation coming down the pike, it's going to increase the cost of electricity for sure. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I look, at the end of the day, I don't know why people think I'm not a fan of solar. I'm a realist that you're not going to power a society on solar photovoltaic. It's silly. I hate wind. I like solar, but this idea that you're going solar to be independent while you're grid tied is silly, man. If you're grid tied, you're inherently non-independent. You have to have batteries, battery banks. That's what you have to have. So if you produce your own electricity and able to store it via battery banks, I think it's a wonderful investment. If you think you're going to be this independent electricity generation via grid tied, you're not. The minute they shut you down from the grid, you're screwed. Unless you have a battery bank. And as someone in Arizona said, they're not allowed to go off grid. It's crazy. I mean, I get why. I get why you don't want a lineman. You're putting up some freaking fixing some lines, and all of a sudden you're on. You run your transfer switch, and then he gets electrocuted. I get that, but if we have the technology, which we do now, which shuts it off and just goes to your battery bank, why not be able to use that? It's nuts. Anyway, all right, talk about that. All right. All right, so my man, Northern Captain, I'm starting to see existing house prices in Central Maine have not gone up by much of the rest of the country. Yeah, that I can't say that shocks me. One can't stop. Okay, gotcha. Well, I think that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, in any place that's cold, it's going to have a limited demand. That's just a fact. One EV would need a field full of panels. No, I'm not so sure that's true. I don't know. My man Alberto said, I got his email from him today. He said right here, hold on just a second. SunPower Solar System Year 2 report. So let's just read this. And let's see what he wrote about his photovoltaic. We installed 4,600 4.6 kilowatt photovoltaic in December 2008. As a result, the system produced 6,877 kilowatt hours and a $55 rebate in 2019. We just received our bill for 2020, and it produced over 6,900 kilowatt hours and a rebate of 77.65. So for me, that's 6,900 kilowatt hours. Divide that by 365. That's 19 kilowatt hours a day. That's not bad. That's about a third of what I use here, electricity. And we're not only talking electricity. We're not talking about energy, just electricity. Remember, electricity is just one component of energy. We celebrate that the decision to invest and go solar has worked beyond our expectations, and our trade on the selection has held true after the first 2 years. One of the things I think is overlooked on solar photovoltaic is that at some point you do have to replace the PV panels, and if you're going batteries, you're gonna have to replace the batteries too. Batteries probably sooner than the PV. The one thing that I find funny that no one can answer this. All right, so everyone thinks we're going to go green. How many solar photovoltaic panels does it take to create one solar photovoltaic panel? How many solar panels does it take to create just one? Look, I'll just cut to the chase. No one knows, because the amount of energy that goes into the production of that solar panel will never be replicated solely by solar photovoltaic. It never will. The amount of fossil fuels that's needed to dig, to transport, you're not to mine. You're not going to get that from battery packs. You're just not. You're just not. So the idea that these freaking, I'm going green, yay. Okay, what happens if you're going to replace your photovoltaic panel there, guy? Well, what do you recycle it? Yeah, well, how are you going to mine it? The silicon? Yeah. Can we stop with this idea that fossil fuels, that Steely Joe is like, I promise you I'll get rid of fossil fuels. These fools fall for this stuff, man. I don't get why fossil fuels are so looked at as evil. I love fossil fuels. Maybe it's because I'm from Maine. And when you're from Maine, you are begging for fossil fuels to heat your house. I guess if you're living in Arizona, like I was talking to a guy, my man Richard today. He used to live in California. He goes, you don't understand, Josh. I know what I do understand. He said, you don't need that much. You can live pretty cheap in California. You have no liberty, but you can live pretty cheap because your cost of heating and air conditioning is pretty cheap. You don't spend that much on the grid because it's such a good weather. If you don't make that much income, your taxes aren't very high, and your property taxes, because Prop 13 is quite low. By the way, I was reading an article today from Reason Magazine saying how Prop 187 turned Latinos off from the Republican Party. Did you know that 25% of Latinos, Hispanics voted for Prop 187? Did you know that 50% of Asians and 50% of blacks voted for Prop 187? So if we extrapolate the fact that half the blacks, half the Asians voted for Prop 187, how is it that Prop 187 killed the immigrant outreach for the Republican Party? Now, it doesn't make any sense. So can we put that once and for all and kick that just put that in the trash can, the ash heap of history for where it belongs? The fact that, and these libertarians love using this argument. They say you should not be for immigration limits because you're going to turn off immigrants. That didn't happen. In Prop 187, half the blacks, half the Asians, a quarter of the Hispanics voted for Prop 187. And as such, now you can make an argument that it may have turned out Hispanics who previously did not vote to vote for Democrats. That I would grant you that argument. But how would you make the argument that 50% of blacks and 50% of Asians voted for it, and now they all turn against us all of a sudden? Doesn't make sense, does it? No, it does not. So what else was it that turned off people from the Republican Party? Oh, I think I know. Because a lot of blacks, Hispanics are in the lower working class, and the Republican Party, i.e. George W. Bush, Mitt Romney, don't represent the working class of America. And as such, you get a guy like Trump, who's not working class, but he represents the talk of the working class people, the lower income, middle class people, All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Trump's support among blacks and Hispanics goes up relative to Mittens and John McCain. Very interesting, huh? So maybe instead of the focus on the immigration about being anti-Republican, it's the focus on who the Republican Party appeals to. And instead of appealing to the 53% that pays taxes and writing off the 40%, 7% who doesn't, a la Mittens, maybe we can appeal to people who do respect the culture of America and say, you know, if you respect the culture, because Republicans have been so scared to engage in the culture wars. This is why I'm excited for 2021 under Sniffy Joe presidency. For once, the Republicans got guts now. They're saying, no, we're here. We respect the culture of the country. The culture is good. The culture, like all humanity, has bad things, but the culture of America is the best there is, and we're going to defend it. I love it. I think it's freaking awesome. About damn time, because before it's always been economic arguments for the Republicans, not knowing that there's another side of lots of people, especially in the lower middle class, that economic arguments are fine, but there is something about cultural arguments too. You got to make both cultural and economic. And you don't do it by opportunity zones. That's just silly. You don't do it like that. You do it by vouchers, but you don't do it by capital gain tax cuts. That's just freaking stupid, man. So I'm looking forward to a new Republican Party that puts away the Mittens of the world and say, hey, Mittens, go over there with your freaking moneyed elite on the Democratic Party. This ain't it no more. That's not us. I love it. I love it. So anyway, the point I'm trying to say is put in the ash heap of history that Republicans being anti-immigration from Prop 187 destroyed California for Republicans. No, it did not. The facts are California has got becoming increasingly unequal. The wealth inequality of California is probably second to none in the whole world, the whole country. Which means you have a hell of a lot of poor middle class people, lower middle class people in California, and top heavy rich, bottom heavy with a huge amount of lower working class people. And Republicans have not done anything to appeal to them until Trump came along, which is why I love the Trumpster. The first guy who ever said, we need to appeal to these people. And you don't do it capital gain and opportunity zones. You speak to them on their level. I just love it, man. I could not be happier. This is great. And yet the libertarians, this is where the libertarians just drive me up the wall. They're like, oh my goodness, the immigrants come here and they're actually a net gain for us. If you're a college professor and you're tenured, sure. Not if you're a roofer. This is what pisses me off. If you're a roofer, there's no net gain. If you're competing against cheap labor, there's no net gain at all. I don't get it, man. Well, it's a net gain for society. Well, freaking screw society. I'm trying to go to work and feed my kids, you freaking fools. The Libertarian Party drives up the wall. All right, so let's keep going back here. So my man Al says, our PV system covered 100% of our usage and provided rebates. We talked about that. Our break-even point was 7.5 years, so we are ahead of schedule. Our estimated proposed production was 6,463 kilowatt hours. We selected SunPower for its efficiency and guaranteed degradation to 92% after 25 years. Basically, so the efficiency will still remain quite high. Al is, I love Al. He's a big engineer. He's of this belief that we'll have 35% efficiency solar panels in no time. I'm probably setting up a little bit of a straw man here, but he's one of these guys who thinks the efficiency of solar panels are just right around the corner. I don't believe that at all. But for Al to electrify his home is working like a charm for him. I think it's freaking awesome. I do. Let's see. These numbers do not consider inflation or the rising cost of kilowatt hours from Southern California Edison. In 2 years, we have realized savings of 1,200 times. Okay, gotcha. If we had to do it again today, we'd invest in a 12 SunPower Max 400-watt panels with a 23% efficiency. Yeah, dude, that's freaking awesome. Love it. I think that's great. And so if I had to see, I don't have that good of a south-facing house to put solar in my home. And I'm not taking down the canopy. In fact, in my town, you can't just go in there and willy-nilly take down trees. So I don't think we're going to – north is that way, south is that way, and it's a huge canopy there. Not going to be very good. So, but I will tell you, when we downsize and the kiddos are out, I'm getting solar without question. 100%, I will get solar. And I do have panels, by the way. I can move around as I so please and charge controls and all that, but not rooftop. And it won't. It's just not really going to work that well. But good stuff. All right. So I highly recommend. One way to deal with the increasing cost of electricity, inflation, because of the freaking heavy hand of government, is to get your solar photovoltaic in there for sure. I don't care about your stupid tax credits or all that. I just do care that at the end of the day, knowing what I know about the heavy hand of government regulation, the cost to electrify your home is going to go up. The cost to heat your home, now you can't heat your home very well with solar, but you can with heat pumps and stuff depending on your climate, not Maine. But anyway, the cost to heat your house if you're using natural gas is going to go way through the roof. You got to have alternatives. Get a wood stove in there or something like that, because I'm just telling you right now, that is one thing of inflation that's coming down the pike, in my opinion, for sure. All right. One full charge of an electric vehicle is 80 kilowatt hours. Yeah, that doesn't shock me. All right. Let's see. All right. So it's not going up 35%. It's just not in the solar panel that you can put on your house. In a lab, sure, but not in a solar panel. A commercial is just not going to happen. It's just the physics of it. It makes it impossible for sure. And the same thing with these batteries. Well, the battery technology is here. I was like, dude, we've been hearing that for 100 years. The battery technology is the battery technology. Storing electricity is tough. And just because Elon Musk says he can do it well, and I'm a fan of Elon Musk. Storage of electricity is tough. It's not changing overnight. It's not going to be a drastic change in the next 10 years. We need fossil fuels. We're going to continue to need fossil fuels. So for once, can we show some respect to the people who generate the fossil fuels for us to use, as opposed to hating on these guys? Fossil fuels allow us to live the way we live. I guarantee if you go to, Bombay or Mumbai or whatever those places are in India, those people would gladly trade you some fossil fuels, even if it spews CO2, to save their children from having to burn freaking dung and firewood inside their house to heat their home and cook their food, where they're breathing all the toxic smoke and chemicals in and dying. Yeah, solar panels, when it breaks, Harry, and it gets covered with snow, 100%, you got to go up there and clean it off. But these guys live in California. I think it was Northern Captain here, and I'm not, if that's the same person I think it might be, I'm not sure. If that's someone who lives, well, anyway. The Northern Captain said they're going to put, I think a huge solar farm up in Maine. I'm like, for the love of the good Lord. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I don't understand that. They already got freaking wind up there. The wind industry is evil, man. The wind industry is look, if you're in it, I'm not saying you are evil, but there are some evil players in that industry for sure. Oh, man. All right. I've never been to Mumbai, and I never will go. In fact, I've never been anywhere outside of the U.S. other than Mexico a couple of times, Peru, and then when I was in the Army. And I will never go. For me, it's USA or bust, baby. My wife likes to go to London to see her sister in Cambridge. She can go. I won't. I thought it might be kind of cool to go to Dublin one time to see where my family's from, the mix, because we're mixed, but not after Ireland. Ireland is evil now, man. Ireland has just gone crazy, so they can all kiss my butt. If you follow Dave Cullen and you follow my man John Waters, just Ireland is nuts, and they can screw all that. Nope. I'm not going to Germany, not going to Austria, not going to any of those places. The only place I would like to go would be New Zealand, because I read about it when I was growing up about New Zealand, how they went libertarian economics. Now they're far left, though. They can kiss my butt. The only other place I will go at some point is Prince Edward Island in Nova Scotia. When I was growing up in Maine, as I've said to you all a million times a Sunday, but I'll say it again for new folks here, I lived on an island off the coast in Casco Bay called Peaks Island. And on the summertime, you'd see this cruise ship called the Prince of Fundy. The Prince of Fundy going up through the Bay of Fundy to Halifax. And as poor folk on Peaks Island, I just remember looking at that cruise ship saying, there goes all the rich people. And one of these days, I'm going to get on that boat and take that cruise and go to Halifax. That is my life's mission, is to get on that boat. It's no longer called the Prince of Fun Day. It's called something else. So I'm going to get on that, and I'm going to get on that boat, and I'm going to get the highest, fanciest room. I'm going to gamble, because once you're in international waters, you can gamble. And I'm going to go to Halifax. I'm going to buy my wife the most expensive dinner we can possibly get. And then we're going to cruise by, look at Peaks Island. I'm going to say, take that, take that. I have arrived. Even if I have to go and freaking take a second mortgage, I will do that. I will take a second mortgage. I'm just joking. Ireland is wonderful, yeah, but it's not wonderful if you're for freedom. It's just not. So if you're not for freedom, I won't go there. That's all there is to it. You got it, man. At some point, we got to stand for those who support freedom. And just think, it was just this close, right there, of having an insane drug-induced bisexual guy, Andrew Gillum, buying bisexual prostitutes in his hotel room, sniffing crack and whatever he's doing, running that state. Instead, we got the most freedom-loving governor in the country, and Ron DeSantis, backed by Kristi Noem. And Brian Kemp was as well. Kemp was in there. Kemp dropped the ball, but Trump dropped the ball on Kemp. I'm still pissed at Trump for that. I'm not going to lie to you. Everyone's like, Trump. No, Trump screwed that up royally. See, Trump doesn't know how to freaking. I was like, Trump, can you just shut the hell up? I don't care about the tweets. But why do you got to throw the people who defend you under the bus just because they disagree with you, dude? Oh, Trump. I get Jeff Sessions. I don't know what the hell happened to Sessions, but Brian Kemp, man. And Trump said he's not listening to what we say. It's because what you're hearing from these fools like Fauci. Oh, man. Not Jack Kemp, Brian Kemp. Marty, one reason to move to Texas, oil, natural gas forever. Yep. Love my gas truck. Texas don't care what DC thinks. Yeah, I do. Biden is not going to reverse the tax, the TCJA, because that's going away anyway, Ike. Yep. County Cavan. Turns out that's where my wife's has some history. County Cavan, which is my son's name, Cavan. And her, it wasn't Galway. It was a County Cork. Yeah, they're big mix. Oh, my goodness. I'm just a European mutt, Northern European mutt. Krauts and Mix on my side for the most part. And I can say that because I'm Kraut and Mick. If you're not Kraut and Mick, you better not say that. I'll be so offended. But I think it was Cork is where her father's father was from, I believe. Anyway, so the Biden's not getting rid of TCJ. It's not happening. He doesn't have the votes. They're just not there. Secondly, it's going to sunset anyway, for sure. So I'm not worried about. I'm not actually worried about it. Look, even if they win fair and square in Georgia, in Fulton County, counting all the legal votes fair and square, look, it's still 50-50. And they got Kamala. That's it, man. They're not going to go. There's just not going to be any major legislation passed. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not. The sad thing, the thing that sucks is if they do win like that, they will be able to get all the judges they want through. That sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. That sucks. And the second thing that sucks with Sniffy Joe is that the legislative or the executive branch, he'll be, he can, not the legislative, the executive branch, he'll be able to put all his clowns in there, Lois Lerners of the world, all these fools, freaking Rob Rosensteins, freaking Andrew Weissmans, these clowns, these are evil people, criminals, John Brennan's of the world, they can all, Comey's, all these evil criminals will be able to dominate again. It's bad. That sucks. They'll get the judges they want. That sucks. No big legislation's passed. But the thing is, my friends, legislation isn't the issue anymore. I wish it were. It's all done executive order now in the administrative state. And that's, the Republicans were so late to this. They thought we had, the freaking checks and balances. There is no checks and balances. The judges run amok. The executive branches run amok. And what does the legislative state do? Nothing. They just get paid. They get paid. Look at Paul Ryan. He did nothing, but he's getting paid. Sad. Brian Kemp, not good. He was corrupted with a Dominican. Oh, he was good until the voting stuff happened, Jill. I was a fan of Kemp until whatever happened. All about regulations. Could not agree more. Could not agree right there. All about regulations. That's the that is ultimately what it comes down to. And the EPA can't build a freaking. You can't build a bridge over your creek in your backyard because it's a wetland. You think that doesn't happen? Yeah, Texas. I lived in Texas. The one thing I love about Texas is the love of Texas from Texans. But for me, a little bit too hot. A little bit too hot, not green enough. If I have to move back to Texas, it'd be East Texas, Tyler area. But I got my eye on Oklahoma. So if my man Harry's still on board, I got my eye on Oklahoma. And that's why Harry moved from Texas to Oklahoma, because it's kind of Texas culture-wise, but it's not nearly as oppressive from a pure property tax. All right, so what else we want to talk about here? Yeah, I agree about Dominion. I agree. Dominion, I agree. Sad. Seemed I had something else. Oh, right. Yes, I do. I want to talk about this real quick. I did. I haven't used this for a while, but I right here. All right. So here is my back test of. Let me make sure it's on here, and then we'll call it a night. You made me feel. Did you know that the reason we got rid of disco and is because of racism and homophobia? Did you know that? Not that because disco sucked, but because racism and homophobia. That's what the left is now saying. We got rid of disco because of racism and homophobia. All right, so sweet. So here's Portfolio Visualizer. I love Portfolio Visualizer. The only thing is it only goes back to 1985, which kind of sucks, but big fan. And I haven't used it that much solely because it only goes back to 1985. But I want to share with you something. We're going to go to 2000, and we're going to go to 2020. All right. And we're going to go to right here. All right. So what we're doing here is we're going to compare 3 funds: Wellington, Wellesley, and S&P 500. All right. We got Wellington, we got Wellesley, and we got S&P 500. All right. So we're going to look at, let's just look from a starting perspective with no withdrawals here. Let's go to none. All right. So we're just going to do 100,000. And that's all we're doing. What has done what over the last 20 years? All right. So if we go to the 3, you can see here is, what one is this? Is this Wellesley? Hold on a second. That's Portfolio 3 is. Okay, so Portfolio 3 is the S&P 500. And this is Portfolio 3 right there. So the S&P 500 over 20 years has underperformed Wellesley. Can you believe that? The top performing portfolio of the last 20 years is the Wellington. But look at that. The Wellesley smoked the S&P 500. And the reason for that is because the S&P 500 got smoked in the first 3 years. But if we take away that and we start in 2003, all right, so now we're going on 2003. And let's see what we got. Right here. So here's the S&P 500. Here's Wellington, and here's Wellesley. All right, so you can see quite the difference, right? So those 3 bad years to start 2000, the odd year, the century. And this is what you're going to get all the time, my friends. Everyone's going to compare their safe portfolio to the S&P 500, always starting in 2000. It kind of makes sense. I get it. But the problem is once you get beyond those 3 years, it's not likely that your safe portfolio outperformed the S&P 500. So here's the S&P 500. 100,000 is worth 579,000. That's, what's that? 6 times where Wellesley is 346,000. That's a pretty significant difference. All right, now if we just go back to the last 10 years to 2010, it's going to be even uglier for Wellesley. All right, so we go to 10 years. So I just want to caution you guys who fall for the trap of just looking at the start of the century as if that's typical. It's just not. So here's the last 10 years. 100,000 starting in 2010 in the S&P 500 is now worth 400,000. It quadrupled in 10 years. 100,000 in Wellesley is worth 230. It doubled. And that's nothing wrong with that. But let's stop this idea that Wellesley is a cat's meow or any kind of conservative fixed index annuity, index universal life insurance, anything like that, because other than those 3 years, now I get other, that is a big other, but that was a very odd occurrence. And what I mean by that, you have to look literally to the Great Depression to see that same kind of 3-year track record of boom, boom, boom. I hope that makes sense. And as such, if you look at the Wellington, though, it avoided those 3 years. And so if you go to Wellington, well, we'll just start right here. Wellington has not kept up as much as the S&P during the great times, but let's just look at Wellington going back to 2000 versus the S&P 500. All right, so we're going to go to Wellington, and we're going to go to 2000, and then look at from 2003 as well. All right, so if we go to Wellington, which is the blue, so Wellington smoked the S&P 500 from 2000 to 2020. Well, Wellesley did too, but let's go to 2003 to 2020, and we know the S&P 500 smoked Wellesley. Let's see what it did against Wellington, and the Wellington is going to be in the blue. All right, so if you look at Wellington, Wellington's in the blue at 420, 438. S&P's in the orange at 47 at. Wellington's at, let's see, Wellington is at, what does that say? 471. S&P 500 is at 579. I hope you get where I'm going with there, is that we can make the fixed income stuff look very safe. Oh boy. Japan has banned any foreigners from entering until January 31st. Maddie was supposed to go on a do an internship there. That sucks. Where I'm going with this, Wellington, I mean, just look at that. And don't forget, if we go back to the last 10 years, the growth stocks have smoked the value stocks. Wellington is heavy in value stocks. All right, so if we look right here, growth, which is heavy in the S&P 500, is up 400, quadrupled. Wellington, it hasn't done that much better than Wellesley, if that makes sense. So where am I going with this? Personally, if I'm nervous about the markets, for whatever reason, they're not granting visas. All right. If I'm worried about the markets, all right, I think I would be more heavy on Wellington than S&P 500. Absolutely. And the reason for that is quite simple, actually, is that value stocks have underperformed relative to growth stocks over the last 10 years, for sure. All right. Which is why I still hit my biggest holding is VTV, my value index ETF. Value has underperformed for 10 years. It's not even close. In fact, I wonder if we can, let's see if we can go back to this real quick. I wonder if I can change out here, go to VTV, this is VUG, I think, yeah. Just get rid of this. All right. Go to VTV versus, oh, 1 second. There we go. You made me feel like dancing, gonna dance the night away. You made me feel like romancing, don't care what you say. All right, so you ready? Let's take a look at VTV, large cap value, versus VUG, large cap growth. Look at that. Last 10 years. Value 520, growth 525, value 320. Need I say more? If I'm nervous about stocks, I'm getting ready to heavily move into value. Now, I wouldn't do it unless it's an IRA until the new year, just because you don't want to buy the dividend. I don't want to talk about that too much now. But if you have a taxable account, I'd be hesitant to put a whole lot in there until the first of the year. But I'm just telling you, man, look at that. Growth has just smoked value for these 10 years. All right. So going back to Wellesley and Wellington, my concern about Wellesley is that it still is only 40% stocks versus 60% bonds. And we know that bonds aren't going to give you any upside. But if we have deflationary times, bonds are still looking good. Value looks even better because of the dividends and stuff. All right. Now, at the end of the day, Wellesley and Wellington both look good to me. I'm just telling you right now, without question. It depends on your level of risk taking for the markets. Wellesley is a mirror image of Wellington. Actually, not quite, because Wellesley has a little bit more stocks than Wellington has bonds. But one of those, if you have nervousness about the markets, but you still know you need to be in there, I'm just recommending you look at one of those funds for sure. Take some gains off the table of the S&P 500, because the S&P 500 is top heavy with the FANGs, and move them into VTV or move them into Wellington or Wellesley, simply because you want to take advantage of large cap value, which is underperformed, and those bonds. Look, I'm not big on bonds at all. I have none, but I'm not nearly ready to retire. But if retire is in my wheelhouse, and I think you need to be a little bit more proactive on protecting that downside. I hope that makes sense. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So my voice is being shot, so we'll take a couple comments here. Okay, we just put a treadmill in. We literally just put it in tonight, so I'm looking forward to using it, Prairie Mark. Yeah, I bet. Who wants dollars to donuts? Prairie Mark is not nearly as good looking as his Filipino wife. Who wants to bet? I bet Prairie Mark's like, dude, why did she pick me? Because she's smoking hot and I ain't. I'm just doing that around. All right. We can figure out something. Okay. What website is the portfolio visual? It's just portfoliovisualizer.com, man. That's it. It's freaking awesome. Portfoliovisualizer.com. It's fantastic. I haven't used it that much. I probably need to use it more. Especially, I'll do a video on this alone tomorrow. The issue, just remember, the issue with the Wellington and Wellesley, I just want to be very, very clear, is that when the interest rates are dropping, as they did from 2000 today, that inherently gave a boost to both those bond portfolios, for sure. And those days are gone. And so don't rely on bonds to give you any kind of upside. There is no upside in bonds, but there's downside protection for sure. So the days of interest rates going down, helping out your bond funds, those days are gone. But if the market gets tanked, as it will at some point, it's going to be nice to have those bonds to give you a reprieve, even if you don't get any upside. And as such, the bond should give you some cushion. And then the value stocks should hold themselves up over quite nicely, which is exactly what happened in 2000. In 2000, 2001, value stocks did fine. They finally got hit in 2002, like everything did. But the S&P 500 is down 2000, 2001, and 2002. Value stocks didn't get hit at all until 2002. So, all right. Comments blocking screener again. I didn't see any comment from Jay Silverback. What did Jay Silverback say? Is it? Yeah, I didn't see it, man. So Yeah, fake. Yeah, right. WorldCom Valley stock. I was there, man. I was there. I got I got smoked by WorldCom. I never fell for Enron, but I got smoked by WorldCom. Got smoked. I was selling options off it, and I got killed. All right, my friends, I'm going to take a. I'm running out of energy here. We will 2024 front runners. Man, I don't even know, brother. Not Nikki Haley. I know, Bob, you're Indian. I'm not a fan of Nikki. I'm not. I love my Indian brothers and sisters. Real quick, speaking of Indians, if you're okay, Ravi Zacharias, we got the email. If any of you all supported the RZIM, which I did, it turns out he did engage in some stuff that he would not have wanted people to know about, and it actually made me kind of consider the. Look, I love Ravi. He was a huge person in many people's eyes. Who did lots of good things for lots of people, and he had issues. Welcome to the club, man. And just like any addiction, it's the more addicted you get, the more you need to relieve that addiction. It's just that simple. And so Ravi, it turns out he did just engage in out-of-pocket activity sexually. Yes. Anyway, it made me kind of rethink. I was talking to my wife about this. I said, I was down on Clinton for what he did with Monica. Why was I down on Clinton, but I wasn't down on, and I was willing to forgive Ravi? You see what I'm saying? My wife made good points because Clinton was denied it top to bottom. And I frankly don't know if Ravi did. Clinton denied it, but I never had relations with that woman and all that, but he did. And just, I don't know. I just, in hindsight, maybe a little bit more forgiveness should come along, even if the guy has a D or an R by their names, if that makes sense. Because I don't know. I don't like Clinton. The guy's a scumbag. His wife's a scumbag. They're evil, evil people. But to engage in that kind of activity with consenting adults, I don't know, man. If you're going to forgive Ravi because he's fallen, because he's part of the Christian evangelical movement, well, you got to forgive everybody who's fallen, because we all are. And it might not be in sexual peccadillos. It might be drugs, alcohol, lust, whatever it is, all that stuff. But I just started thinking, it just occurred to me. So wait. Why was I so eager to recognize that Ravi is a fallen guy? And I am, but not so eager to recognize Clinton was. Was it really because he has a D after his name? If so, that's an indictment on me, more so that it was on him. Now, look, the guy's, Madeleine Albright discovered she was Jewish. Yeah. Yeah, well, he lied under oath, 100%. Agree with that. 100%. 100% lied under oath. Yes, we should forgive people. That doesn't mean they can't be held accountable. But you should forgive. Forgive. Can't stand Rick Wilson. Talk about a scumbag, Bob. Oh, my goodness. That guy's... Look, just because you make mistakes doesn't mean you just go on as a normal. I'm just saying, but, a little bit of empathy and compassion maybe to forgive, but they still got to be held accountable. I agree. I mean, Clinton lost his law license. He's debarred. And he couldn't practice for 2 years or something like that in Arkansas. And frankly, if they put Michael Flynn, they're trying to get him in jail for for less. And then Dinesh D'Souza went to jail for. I mean, I get that the nature of our political is there's one law for them and one law for us. I get all that. I'm just talking about me right here. So I just look back in the 1990s and say, get him. He was cheating on his wife in the Oval Office while he's talking to the leader of Ukraine or whatever it was. And all that stuff's bad. I get all that. But in hindsight, I'm like, maybe I should have just relaxed a little bit. Anyway, I agree. No, they don't need to ask for forgiveness. You need to because when you're forgiving, it's you that changes you. It changes you. That's what has to be done. Sinner saved by grace. I just got a Kindle nose job. What does that mean? as the politics has replaced religion. I 100% agree. That's a scary thing, which is why this whole COVID thing is so scary, because people have nothing to live for. So they're living for being righteous in the eyes of their peers by being the most Nazi-ish when it comes to COVID. All right, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to get out of here. Thanks again for being here. No live stream tomorrow. You'll see why shortly, but shortly in the next couple of days. We'll see you guys. Thanks now.